and stop the run. That task got a little bit tougher this week as LSU lost Jacoby and Guillory, their top interior defensive lineman for the season, with an Achilles injury. There'll be some shuffling on defense today. We'll talk a lot about that. But for LSU, the number one goal today will be to stop the South Carolina run. The Gamecocks, through their first 2 games of the season, have run it more than twice as much as they've thrown it. They also have been on the lead for most of the season. LSU getting them into an uncomfortable situation where they had to throw the football is probably a good formula for success. On the other side of the football, they'll get starting offensive lineman Garrett Dellinger back, so the starting offensive line is back intact, and they'll try to produce more from the run game than they got in the first 2 weeks. South Carolina comes in with a record of 2-0. They beat Old Dominion in the opener by 4 points, and then went to Kentucky and really got the attention of everybody in the nation with a 31-6 win over the Wildcats, a game in which South Carolina was a 10-point underdog. Not so much the win, but the manner in which they dominated Kentucky got everybody's attention all the way up to ESPN's Gameday, which made a surprise move to go to Columbia this week for their show. They're led by quarterback Lenora Sellers, a huge freshman who's got a big arm and a lot of ability, but not a ton of experience. Rocket Sanders, the Arkansas transfer, leads the way in the backfield behind that South Carolina rushing attack that we talked about. And the Gamecocks may very well be the best pass rush team in the Southeastern Conference, leading the league in sacks and a pair of defensive ends. One a senior, one a freshman that will really test LSU's outstanding offensive tackles, Emory Jones and Will Campbell, in this game today. The Gamecocks are unranked, but that'll change if they can pull the upset today. They are just under a touchdown underdog to LSU. We're glad you're with us today. We'll get you started. We'll go to Columbia, South Carolina to get things going here when we return. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Oshner MD Anderson.
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day Skull Session Offense. Presented by Gulf Coast Bank. Gulf Coast Bank, the bank that cares about you. Now from the LSU Sports Radio Network, here's Gordy Rush.
Let me welcome you back in Eagle 98.1 Game Day. ESPN bet at LaBerge. Countdown to kickoff a little under 4 hours away from right now. Gordy, good morning. How are things in Columbia?
Well, it's actually drizzling a little bit, but the good news is that down about a 15% chance of rain by the time we get the kickoff. So it's a little bit. It was overcast all day yesterday, so that's good news. Back on Thursday, when I looked, I thought it was 78% chance of rain in the morning. The way LSU throws the football, I don't think the Tigers wanted to play this game in the rain.
No, if that stays away, that will be a help for sure. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball. And the role of Whit Weeks was kind of crystallized a little bit earlier in the week by Brian Kelly. He suggested, I don't want him in a platoon situation anymore. I want him on the field all the time. So with that in mind, what does that do to the role of Harold Perkins? Because that's another guy that LSU wants on the field all the time.
Yeah, look, I think that they're going to play more of a base of a 4-3 defense and not go with the nickel. And it works against South Carolina because South Carolina is a team that wants to run the football. Now, they will come out. South Carolina runs a ton of 11 personnel, one running back, one tight end, and they like to spread the field sideline to sideline, but they're spreading the field to open up running lanes. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be Perkins that's going to fall to that weak side, and then he's the guy, if I'm Shane Beamer and company, I want to make sure I got two receivers to his side or motion to it because I want him out of the tackle box. So I think that's what's going to happen. And then when you get the third down, they'll get their sub packages in and Perkins will get on the line of scrimmage. But I think you're going to see a 4-3 with all three linebackers on the field.
When you talked about the two receivers, this is one of those things that, going all the way back to Perkins' freshman year, you call it scheming him out of the plan, out of the play, out of the box, whatever you want to call it. So LSU knows they want to do that. How do you counter?
Well, I mean, you've got to go respect that. Number one, you've got to be able to respect the formation. So he's going to have to line up there. I think the flip side is you can come in and take some chances and play man to man. And what does that mean? The safety comes over the top. He picks up whoever the guy Perkins is over, the number two receiver. And then you bring Perkins off the edge, and you do a couple of those. You can't do it all the time because they'll do that. I think the thing about, especially today, it works because when you look at Sellers on film, to me, he's really uncomfortable from the pocket. He's a big kid, an athletic kid. He's got a hose for arm from the pocket. He just doesn't feel comfortable. Sometimes the ball comes out with a little too much mustard on it. He's better improvising, getting outside of the pocket and flushing him. So, I think that's for them. They're going to look to run the ball today, and that means, hey, can I get Perkins out in space?
On the interior, LSU's got to replace Jacoby and Guillory. Now, he went down fairly early in the Nichols game, so we saw a variety of players get in there and get some reps. What are you expecting today?
I think Sean Washington starts, and then you'll see Bro, you'll see Lee, and you'll see a cast of characters, and Kelly's been pretty, straightforward. You're looking for kids to play 15 to 20 reps in this ball game. I don't believe this is I think South Carolina had 57 offensive plays when I went and looked back at the Kentucky reel. And so that's one of the good things about this game. They're going to try and run the ball. The clock's going to run. And so you're not going to be in a 90-play football game like, say, Ole Miss might be.
Kelly raised the possibility that one of the ends could kick down and get some reps down in there. Any candidates that you like?
Parashand. I think he's too good. You find, I think in situations that you're comfortable with him on the football field if you do that. But again, I think today this game favors Shand a little bit more than Swinston because it's going to be a power running game. And so in the starting four, I like Shand actually to see more snaps than Swinston.
In the secondary, they'll be without Jordan Allen today. So I'm thinking what we're looking at is Zy Alexander, Ashton Stamps at the corners, Sage Ryan, Jordan Gilbert at the safeties. Is that pretty much right?
Yeah, I think so. And then you'll see some Woodland when they do go nickel. I think it's about run support today, and Sage Ryan he's been one of your better defenders in run support. I think you'll see a little bit of Spears. They'll work into that. He'll be the swing guy back in the secondary. I'm interested to see in a game like this where, Carolina's going to hit a couple passes. You do not want to give them anything. You don't want to have a mental breakdown. So they play the young guys at corner.
Feels like LSU's best four back there. If Alexander's able to go, any number of snaps over, say, 40, that feels like their best four back there.
I agree. I thought Alexander was excellent in the second half, albeit it's against Nichols. But you could tell doing a better job in press off the line of scrimmage, and it's just smooth right now. The young guys are a little overhyped, and Woodland was overcommitting sometimes at the jam, and then two or three times I've seen him in man coverage. He's been in a catch-up position. Zai just looks really smooth out there.
LSU's offensive tackles, Emory Jones and Will Campbell, had their hands full today. This is probably the best pair of pass rushers that they have seen outside of maybe, Georgia in the championship game that since Kelly has been here. Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart, the only difference between them that I can see is the age. One of them's a fifth-year guy and the other one's a first-year guy, but they're both about 6'6", about 245, 250 pounds, and they can both get after the passer. So South Carolina's third in the nation in sacks, and they lead the Southeastern Conference. Are you expecting LSU to leave their tackles out there? They're really good. I mean, this is good on good, or are you going to have to help them out a little bit?
Yeah, I do. I think we'll see both. I think that we're naive to think that LSU's not going to run some 12 personnel with the two tight ends and try and chip every once in a while. I'm a bigger fan of this offensively, and what we're trying to do is to spread the football field, right? And even Taylor, when you go one tight end, one running back, letting him flex in space. And I think that if you spread the field out, the ball's going to come out quick, and you'll get matchups that you like. Keep in mind, everybody's been talking about these edge folks, and we've seen them now in two games, right? We've seen them against Kentucky, and Charles, my verdict from that game, Kentucky's a bad football team. Mm-hmm. And they lost to Old Dominion, right? And Old Dominion and obviously they beat Old Dominion, but Old Dominion wasn't that impressive a little bit. I mean, these tackles that faced Anderson and company last year from Alabama, they see some outstanding rush people. And so, yeah, they're good football players. I mean, do I think this is the two elite rushers in the Southeastern Conference? I don't.
Brian Kelly pushed back pretty hard on the notion Monday that LSU was not physical enough to run the football, but the numbers don't lie. They are last in the SEC in rushing through two games, and it's by a pretty healthy margin. Gordy, I bought the explanation that Nussmeier had to check them out of over a dozen plays because of crowded fronts, but the 21 times that they did run the football against Nichols, they only gained about 3.3 yards per carry. So getting the running game going is going to be imperative to take some of this pressure off of Garrett Nussmeier. Where do you see the LSU run game right now?
Well, I see a little bit of what Kelly was talking about. To me, and we talked about this after the game in Vegas. I wasn't crazy about the type of runs and the way they were trying to do it with 12 personnel against USC. I think Taylor is an average blocker, right, at tight end possession, and Pimpton and Green are below average. And if you're trying to get to it with 12 personnel, number one, you're inviting your opponent to put more numbers in the box. And then you lose your matchup, right? You lose your edge. You've got this offensive line that's played a lot of football, and you bring an average and a subpar blocker into it. I don't think you're helping yourself. I'd like to see LSU spread things out, throw the football like they did against USC, spread it out, sideline to sideline, and force South Carolina to take a step back, and then try run with even numbers with just maybe Taylor as a flex tight end and try to run against a six-man front, the 4 defensive ends and the 2 linebackers while South Carolina's in nickel. I think they'll get to some success.
Gordy, the LSU passing game obviously has been fantastic so far early in the year, but the one thing they've missed is that stretch the field deep threat. No Chris Hilton again today versus South Carolina, but Kyle Parker absent from that last injury report or availability report, whatever they're calling it. Does that dynamic return to the offense with Kyle Parker?
I hope so, and we know Shelton Sampson can do it. We've seen him, do it at Catholic High for years. I've seen Sampson play a lot of football. I've seen him on the track. I know that he can run. He's fantastic at 50-50 balls. I'm not sure why it's not been able to translate on the football field. But, yeah, I think that's one of the things. If I'm South Carolina, I've seen enough film here, and Lacey nor Daniels really haven't been able to get separation off of press coverage other than that one touchdown Lacey had in the red zone against USC. And we know that Nussmeier has the arm to do so, and that's a part of that passing game they've got to develop.
Gordy, I hate to do big picture stuff in the middle of September. We got a long way to go here, but I can't get past the idea that this is going to feel a lot different if LSU loses this game today. This was one that I think everybody had put in the W column before the season started, and now I wouldn't go so far as to call it a coin flip game, but LSU's very, 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 very ripe for an upset today. South Carolina's about a touchdown underdog, a little under a touchdown underdog. So you tell me mindset right now as best you can gauge it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the intangibles are unbelievable right now. Folks feeling a little bit sluggish after the Nichols win, although I don't get into that. Being in-state schools, it's always tricky. Should have been a bigger margin. Yeah, should have not had as much problems with the Wildcat offense with Nichols. Yeah, but, we were sitting there watching South Carolina and Old Dominion in Vegas and thinking that this game was just going to be a check. And so what I'll tell you is, one, LSU's a better football team, and it will be disappointing to lose this football game. I think the thing that you worry about is momentum right now, and all of a sudden game day's here. South Carolina goes up to Kentucky, and it's Kentucky, and it's an SEC team, and they've got a lot of momentum coming into it. And you got people in Baton Rouge asking, questions about this team. So, it shouldn't be like this. If you were just looking at the film and you took the eye test and what we've seen, to me, LSU's a 2-touchdown better football team, but they got to go play to it.
Gordy, have a good call and a safe trip back, and we'll talk to you in post-game.
Okay, guys, thank you.
And we will take a break. OTB on Game Day is next. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques, Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage.
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Off the bench on Game Day. Presented by Shell. Shell is the rhythm of Louisiana. Off the Bench is heard weekday mornings at 7 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Now from OTB, here's T-Bob Hebert.
Now, as far as the LSU defense goes, this is a group that personnel-wise, guys, is very limited. And then your most talented players just feel a bit out of position and are not playing well. And obviously, I'm mainly talking about Harold Perkins with that latter kind of point. On the inside, look, I think this interior D-line is working their ass off. I think they are trying. I don't think it's lazy. It's not like last year where I'd become frustrated because I'd watch Mason Smith hand fight with somebody instead of trying to make a play because it looked like he was trying to prove some sort of point of personal pride. I think these guys are really trying. I think they're playing within the scheme. I think they're playing very hard. I just think they're a bit limited. And I think you could kind of say the same thing about corner. You really struggled in man just to stop slants, which I mean, I guess is always going to be tough, but it just... There were flashes, certainly. P.J. Woodland's forced fumble was nice. You know, you give up the catch, but the tackle was aggressive, violent, good hand punch to force the fumble. I still like what I saw to Stamps in week 1 somewhat. Zy Alexander definitely flashed at times. Expect him to take on a larger and larger role. But I still got questions about the safety play, the safety fits. And for the second week in a row, there's just a marked difference between how Whit Weeks plays linebacker and Harold Perkins plays linebacker. There's just way too much catching from Perkins. There's a complete lack of aggression. There was one good TFL where he came downhill, kind of got underneath the blocker, got around, but the too many times it was catching, trying to scrape over the top, and it just, the same way that you talk about Aaron Anderson last year offensively is how it kind of feels watching Perk on the inside right now defensively.
It is something that they have got to figure out. And we talked about it in length yesterday. And here's the main reason why for me, and I think you agree, T-Bob, you're going to have linemen in your lap. You don't right now have the protection of a badass defensive lineman that's going to take multiple bodies to move and get out of their gap. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly. And I meant to actually preface my linebacker's critique with that is they're starting behind the 8 ball a little bit. They're starting having it's like being a running back trying to run behind an offensive line that is not great. Like the best running backs can find, you can do better. You can find success there, but it's just much, much tougher. So what happens if you're new to the position and you're already kind of being put behind the 8 ball like that? Well, that's what you see.
So kind of what we're talking about, like think about some of your, just badass defensive tackles. Like Glenn Dorsey was going to have at minimum 2 bodies on him, and he was going to take both of those bodies.
Yeah.
Right? Ricky Jean Francois, same situation. Claude Roten, Kyle Williams, all those guys, right, when I was a player, they were going to take multiple bodies. And so for the linebacker, you were either going to get somebody late when you've already had a chance to read the play, diagnose the play, and react to the play, or they're going to be like so late getting to you that they're going to kind of be on their heels where you're already going forward and you're going to have that opportunity too. So like even if you haven't read it yet, you're still going to be the aggressor. And when you don't have that, when you don't have defensive linemen that are going to take up multiple guys, you're going to have a guard even a tackle sometimes on different plays, like in your lap. And when we say in your lap, the ball's going to be snapped and he's going right for you. He's not worried about chipping or helping out on the 3 technique or the 1 shade. He is getting to you right now because they feel like their individual matchup one-on-one with your D tackle is going to favor them. And so now you hadn't even had a chance to take a step and you've got a guard right now. And so if you don't play that super aggressive, you're going to be 5 yards behind the ball in a passive position and not have a chance to really get off that block.
Yeah. So, yeah, somebody asked me to explain what I mean by catching. It's exactly what Jake just described, where, like, as an O-lineman, you have such a – and even in nickels, O-linemen, which are smaller.
Number 61, I don't remember his name.
A little sloppier.
He was – but he was playing, though.
Even they put their hands on you when you're a linebacker. Like, the best thing as an O-lineman is you giving me your chest. As soon as I get my hands on you, your size is such that I can just hold you. Now, there would be guys, and it's probably unfair to compare him to someone like this because this guy played in the league forever, but like Kevin Minner was the best that I ever played against, where he would headbutt and punch at the same time so that when you went to hit him, you bounced off. Right? And that's what the best linebackers do. So we talked about Mason Cobb from USC last week. He was doing that very well in film. Weeks is pretty good at that. Like, they're delivering the punch, and so it creates a stalemate situation, and then they're able to shed and get around and do whatever they need to do. Now, with this D-line, there will be times where you could deliver the punch, and it's not going to matter because still there just wasn't enough holdup at the line. But the technique right now is just, it's too much inviting them into your chest, and then you can't get off, and it looks like you're stuck on them.
Yeah, and when you create that stalemate that T-Bob is talking about, because you kind of throw your hands in your head at the same time, then 9 times out of 10, and really more 10 out of 10, you're the better athlete. So once you create that space, you're going to be able to make a movement either with your body or your hands and body where the lineman can't recover, and then you got a chance to go make the play, and he's left, kind of just standing there with nobody to block because he's not quick enough to be able to react to your reaction, and that's how you go make a play. And you're seeing, just from LSU perspective, like you're seeing Whit Weeks play really well with his hands and kind of shooting that. And I'm not saying he's perfect, but he's the only one right now that's kind of giving you that option.
He's doing better in a tough situation.
Yes.
I think you got to move Perkins to the star. Is it insane and inexcusable that for a 3rd year in a row you would try, or I guess a 2nd year in a row, you would spend an entire offseason trying to do one thing with Harold Perkins only to immediately be like, actually, we got to change. Yes, that is a bit insane, but I don't know, man. I just don't know how he could take the strides at inside linebacker that he needs to in order to make plays for this defense. And Major Burns is kind of struggling in that star role.
Yeah, and it gives you an opportunity, T. So if you have him in that star role, he showed last year that he is athletic enough to be able to cover what the star has to cover. Okay, and also you get Weeks and Penn, both Weeks brothers, and Penn in the middle, where I think right now they give you the better option. So it's a better option, I think, and you think, all the way around. And it's a situation where, look, we just saw Alontae Taylor in the NFL have 3 sacks coming off the edge.
NFL sack leader, guys.
He is.
After 1 week.
You can do those things. Like, the star is not back there at 25 yards playing, the deep third. He can be around the football still. You can come off the edge. In fact, you can come from depth. You can motion in. You can do all the things that you want him to do.
Right now, he can't make plays.
No.
He's just, and so we want to say, how do we get him to be a factor in the game?
I wanted to see him, like Nichols did a ton of this, like double A gap mugs. Like, that's not something right now that you have the luxury, because, again, going back to it, you got to have some really good D linemen to be able to do that and get some push and kind of create that space in the A gap where you're able to go right through the A gap and be clean. Like, right now, you don't have that ability. So, like, even the things that we were hoping to see at that position, I don't think you have the ability to get that done right now.
It's interesting, too, that they tried the Sage Ryan at corner thing. And then yesterday in the press,
had to.
But then yesterday in the press conference, Kelly's out there like, nah, Sage, we're going to just keep Sage at safety.
Yeah, I think before you had Zay Alexander, who I thought was maybe the best defender in the game, you kind of had to, because you didn't really know what you had, I think, in the young players, and you were trying to solidify that. And you had an older player in Gilbert from A&M, and you felt good about Allen. But right now, he's a safety. That's what he is. He is a safety, and you got to trust in your young corners. And Zay Alexander now.
Yeah. It's going to come down to Woodland, Alexander, and Stamps. Those are clearly going to be the 3 guys that you try to rely on the outside. So real personnel issues, I believe, on that defense. Maybe you can help some things out with a couple of position changes, but overall, it's an uphill battle for that side of the ball, and I think Blake Baker and company are going to continue to be challenged to try to get the absolute most out of that group. You really don't realize just how good you had it when you had Jarek Bernard-Converse and Greg Brooks, and who else am I missing from that year? Mekhi Garner. Like, those guys were dogs compared to what you have now. Like, it's actually not even close.
Yeah.
And we kind of took him for granted, didn't we?
Gardner's somebody that could have come back for another year. Would have loved to seen him on this team just a year ago. And you can't do anything about it now, but we talked about it at the time. If you just got one of those defensive tackles to come back to school who all three had the ability, that looks different.
Yeah, but it is what it is now. And so, Blake Baker, you got to go try to earn that money. Great job week one. I know a lot of people might disagree. I don't. I think that was a great job week one. Week two, I'm going to give you a pass because everybody's a little checked out, yada, yada. You can say that's an excuse. I'll allow for an excuse. But South Carolina, a very flawed offense. Yeah, personnel, you may not match up great, but, you better game plan some success here because you can do it when you talk about how flawed the South Carolina team is.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center.
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Opposing Media. Presented by Rev. Rev. Fiber fast internet made in Louisiana.
Back here, Eagle 98.1 Game Day. You're the Bears countdown to kickoff. 3 hours, 24 minutes. The ESPN Bet Sportsbook, your new Game Day headquarters at Le Bears. Earlier this week, Matt Moscona sat down with David Cloninger of the Post and Courier to get a closer look at the South Carolina Gamecocks.
David Cloninger from the Post and Courier, good enough to join us, longtime friend of the show. How are you, man?
Not bad, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. This is the first time since 2008 LSU has made their way up to Columbia. Of course, they were supposed to be there in 15, but the flooding up there moved that game to Baton Rouge. Does the vibe feel good? Any different with LSU making a rare trip?
I mean, obviously, LSU anytime is always going to bring its own vibe. I can tell you that the bars and taverns around town have been preparing for the influx of the Tiger faithful. But I think it's a huge vibe right now, Matt, just because South Carolina won its game last week convincingly. They're on top of the SEC at present, and game day is in town. So it's going to be a huge atmosphere, even for a noon kickoff. I anticipate it being pretty full to bursting by the time the ball is actually put into play.
How different is that vibe from week 1 to week 2, David, where they struggled so much against Old Dominion, and now, I mean, now game day's there, and man, vibes are good.
Well, you know, even in a place where it does truly fluctuate week to week about like, oh my God, this is never going to be any good to, man, you know what? They might have a shot at it this year. It's pretty off the charts right now, Matt, just because they did win last week so convincingly after looking so poor in week 1. So a lot of people are looking at this one and they're going into the very familiar South Carolina phrase of what if? I mean, you know, if you win this game and you got Akron next week and then a bye week, it's like, hey, why can't game day be back in here in 2 weeks for the Ole Miss game? I mean, why not? You know, it could happen. It could happen. But, yeah, it could. We'll see what does happen. But right now, everything's looking pretty good.
Dave, I'm not saying that you do feel this way, but I'm going to ask you to give me an explanation of why this could be the case. So I've watched both South Carolina games. I was sitting at a sports bar at the Park MGM in Vegas watching that Old Dominion game. And I was watching the game against Kentucky last week from home. And South Carolina's offense is bad. They're not impressive in any way. Why am I wrong?
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, it definitely improved from week 2 from week 1 to week 2, but it's still not what you would call fluid. The fact is the offensive line, which was full of talent and, you know, is healthy this year after an injury-marred 2023, they're just not blocking that well, which means Rocket Sanders can't get a lot of burst and room to run like he did 2 years ago at Arkansas, which means the growing pains from a true freshman or a redshirt freshman quarterback are going to be exacerbated because it's like, look, anybody's going to look bad if you're getting smacked around 2 seconds after the snap. You throw in that they don't really have any proven wide receivers, then yeah, you're going to have a rough-looking offense. So it was a case of field position. Last week, they managed to punch in some touchdowns when they needed it, but there still hasn't been anything of what you call sustained offense.
What is a ideal offense around Lenora Sellers look like?
Run the ball, heavy and fast with a lot of success. You have a lot of quick outs to the sideline to let him settle in and get comfortable. And some people would call that setting up for the deep pass. I think it's just keep doing what you got, and if somebody like Kentucky does last week and just completely forget to cover a receiver downfield, well, go ahead and hit him while he's open. So that's kind of what it is. I mean, obviously Kentucky just had a couple of glaring busts there, one that led to a touchdown, another which became a touchdown 2 plays after that. But one of them was, okay, they screwed up. The other one was, hey, if you rush that many that often, somebody got to be open, and you didn't get to the quarterback that time.
Yeah. I don't know, David. I mean, I've looked at the offensive side of this game for South Carolina against the LSU defense. I don't know that I see many. I don't see Deebo Samuel out there. You know what I mean? Like I don't see Xavier Legette out there. Who is a guy maybe that LSU fans should know when they're watching the game Saturday morning?
Well, right now, South Carolina, just through 2 weeks, has started to identify a couple of receivers. One is Jared Brown, number 14. Okay. He was a guy that dropped a wide-open touchdown pass in week 1, but he caught a couple of tough plays in traffic in the middle of the field last week. And then Mazeo Bennett, number 3. Again, he caught a touchdown last week where Kentucky just had a glaring coverage bust. But then he caught a huge third down completion that led to another touchdown, which was just he ran his route and Kentucky didn't have enough players to cover him. He's going to be a big-time guy. So when you look at chemistry, you look at guys that you have to go to when you need to make a play. Right now, it's those two guys. That being said, there are a couple of other receivers, like maybe they just haven't shown yet. And I think those guys could be the guys this week.
It'll be interesting to see, man. I think, David, honestly, the game, like the good-on-good matchup, and David Cloninger is our guest, Charleston Post and Courier. He's on Twitter at DCP&C, as in Post and Courier, if you want to give him a follow. The good-on-good is obviously the LSU offensive line against that South Carolina defensive front. Both have been awesome. I mean, LSU hasn't allowed a sack. Carolina's got 10 sacks in 2 games. How do you make sense of what we may see with that matchup on Saturday?
So it's going to be very interesting, Matt. I mean, obviously, LSU hasn't given up a sack all year, while South Carolina has 10 sacks this year, and that's tied for second in the entire country. So it's real simple. If Garrett Nussmeier has time to sit back there and throw, you know, he's probably going to complete the pass because you can't cover anybody forever. And so South Carolina's going to have to try to get to him. LSU's rushing game has not been that good through the first 2 games, so USC is setting up to face a lot of passing. And I think that's where the game is going to be decided, in the trenches, because something's got to give. Is it going to be the side that hasn't given up a sack to a side that's gotten 10 in 2 games?
Do you think Carolina will have success against that LSU? I don't know how much you've seen LSU's offensive line. Do you think that Carolina will have success?
If it comes, I think it would be late in the game, just because you got to kind of hammer away at it. I mean, these guys have been around for a while. 4 starters returning from last year. Will Campbell hadn't given up a sack since his freshman season, I believe. Yeah. It's going to be tough to try to do it unless you just try to overload everything and send them every down. Now, the positive there, the South Carolina has the depth to do that. But the thing is that if you do that, you're articulating to the offense like, look, if they're just going to jailbreak every time, we're just going to send an 8-10-yard button hook at you and complete a pass over the middle and let them run. It's just a game of numbers right there. So if there is that pass rushing success from South Carolina, I think it's going to come late in the game. And, you know, if you say it like we're playing devil's advocate, okay, say it's 10-10 in the third there, late in the third, and then, LSU's like one guy falls down and they get a sack on Nussmeier, maybe that becomes the winning score. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we'll see how it happens.
Hey, David, a couple more for you. This may be the only time all year I do one of these like opposing media interviews, and I ask about the punter. But I mean, like, we're at media days, and they brought Kai Kroger to media days. I mean, that might be the only time ever I've seen a punter at media days. How big of a deal? If this game is close, and I know that line keeps coming down. I think it was 8.5. It's down to 6.5. How big of a deal can Kai Kroger be in a game?
Well, ask Kentucky, Matt. A lot of their offensive struggles last week was because of USC's pass rush. A lot more of it was because they were starting well inside their own 20 almost all game. And that's just a testament of having a great, terrific punter who's been there before and averaged 51.8 on his 5 punts last week, including a long of 58. So that can flip the field. And I could go back and say, go ask Clemson in 2022 how that works, because they were staring at the short end of the field all day. Kai Kroger has definitely come back from the struggles he had last year. He's back on top of him. It's saying, like, listen, if you can't get it done on offense, he's going to at least help out the defense to make LSU drive a long field.
David, is there something, I keep telling our audience, man, look, you got to stop Lenora Sellers and Rocket Sanders from running the ball, and you got to keep Nussmeier upright. If you do that, you're probably going to win the game. Is there something that you, in covering this team, that you look at as a blueprint for South Carolina to say, okay, here's the things, the game within the game that Carolina's got to do to win this game at home on Saturday?
Well, certainly, Matt, you couldn't pin it on one area of the offense right now. There just hasn't been anything consistent there. And you can never say, like, well, shoot, if you just get a defensive touchdown, you're fine. You can't count on that, right? I mean, they got one last week, which put the game away. It was 24-6 at the time, and that made it 31-6, but you can't count on that. So I'd say it's just getting to Garrett Nussmeier. Again, I don't think that LSU's been running the ball particularly well in its first 2 games. You would think that they're probably not going to want to try to depend on that, not with that offensive line, and say, look, you've got the horses to let Nussmeier sit back there and throw, and you're always going to win that matchup if he has a clean pocket. So you do that, you can complete a couple of passes, particularly to the side of the field on the safety that's not Nick Emmanmori, which is DQ Smith, you're probably going to have a pretty successful day. But if USC can find some way to say disguise the blitz and maybe not just bring as many as they have been and still get the job done, well, then it may be a long day for LSU's offense.
Man, it's always interesting in the first month because you're learning about these teams as we go, and this will be pretty telling as LSU opens up conference play there in Columbia. Tough place to play that the Tigers have seldom visited. Last time they were there, as we mentioned, was 2008. He's David Cloninger, Charleston Post and Courier. He's on Twitter at DCPNC. I'll give him a follow, get some Gamecock news this week as the Tigers head up to Columbia. Hey, David, enjoy the game, man. We appreciate the time as always.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks for having me.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Eagle 98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Recruiting with Shay Dixon of On3 Sports. Presented by Ralph's Market. Ralph's Market, where quality and customer service are a family tradition.
ESPN Bet Sportsbook at LeBear's, your Game Day headquarters. Our countdown to kickoff about 3 hours and 10 minutes away. We bring in Shay Dixon from On3. Shay, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie. How are you?
I'm doing good. Last week we opened up talking about Jakeem Stewart, and I think this week we'll start off talking about Jakeem Stewart, the defensive lineman late of St. Aug, now at Carr. Playing or not playing, I'm going to let you kind of fill in the blanks here. We were looking around for a Carr score from last night, but can't find one, so I don't know if their game got canceled because of the hurricane. Maybe you can fill us in there, too. On the week that's been for the big defensive lineman out of New Orleans.
The approach right now is not playing, and I guess to catch everybody up, Jakeem is the #1 player in the country as a D lineman for the 2026 class. So He's in this crop of juniors, one class behind Bryce Underwood and company, all these guys who make up LSU's number 3 class in the country. And he has been talking, Charlie, this offseason about reclassifying, but it's not something you could do at St. Aug. So it was always a little confusing as to how he would essentially skip his senior year and enroll in college early while doing so at St. Aug. And just a couple of days prior to their first game a week ago, he pulled out of St. Aug, withdrew his name. And I think there was a thought that, okay, is he going to go to IMG? Where is he going in hopes of reclassifying? And lo and behold, he shows up about, less than a week later, obviously, enrolled at Dakar. But per multiple reports, and we've got it confirmed, that he would be ineligible this season, going from Aug to Dakar. Now, I don't know. I've talked to so many people about this, and they're working through so many things with, can he at least get out there and practice? Will he still reclassify? When could that be? Whether that be December or is it next summer, and he kind of still gets to campus a year early, but not like an early enrollee would. The biggest thing here, I think, for me, Charlie, is if he does reclassify, he will have only played 1 year of high school football as the top prospect in the country because, for those that don't know, whenever he landed at St. Aug, he was ineligible that first year. So he did not play as a freshman, played as a sophomore last year, was very good. And then now, which would be his junior year, making a move over to Carr at the moment, isn't playing. So if he goes through with this reclassification, it would be 1 year of high school football played, which is already probably on the low end of, things we've seen, I guess, in terms of only a handful of times, maybe ever, and really guys who start playing football late is guys who only play 1 year, maybe got injured, but not one where it's a situation like this, and not one, Charlie, where that 1 year wasn't your final year of high school. You would essentially be playing, sit out a freshman, play as a sophomore, sit out this year, and if he reclassifies, that would be quote-unquote skipping the senior year. So it is very, very interesting to kind of monitor moving forward.
All right, I got about 117 questions. Let me start with, is he going to be eligible at Carr anytime soon?
I don't think anybody can promise that. No. I think that the most important thing with him getting into Carr is getting into a classroom, right? This idea of moving schools and withdrawing from St. Aug was largely all about reclassifying. So I think that to reclassify, you need courses and coursework and credit hours and all those things. And the only way to get it is going to school. So I think that is the number one thing right now, was to make sure that they don't get too far into the semester without him being in a classroom and stacking up credit hours. And now we kind of wait and see to, hey, will he even be practicing with him? Is he just training now? How does this unfold?
Is he more likely to reclassify to graduate in May of 2025 and be a part of the 25 class, or more likely to and I'm calling this a reclassification, but to go back and play a year of high school football at Carr next year in the 2025 season and be a midterm graduate from Carr and go to college in January of 26?
That's a really good question. It's one that a lot of people have asked and said, hey, look, does he just stack up on courses, needing to play that, a semester's worth of football and enroll early? That's on the table. I'm told, Charlie, there are so many things they're still kind of working through, but I guess I would lean towards the latter, only because why make this move? Like, why not just stay at Aug and play through the year, and then, if you wanted to make that move, transfer in the off season and play and then graduate as an early enrollee or whatever it might be. So I think he'll probably try to load up on coursework, and if he's ineligible, he's ineligible, but it's one step closer to a college campus, or at least in the scenario you painted, it's 6 months, I guess, closer, sooner. You'd be on a college campus and one football season sooner.
He's 16-ish.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is an unprecedented situation. I mean, I was talking to our national guys about this, who do rankings, and really out of curiosity, and they said this is, again, beyond quarterbacks reclassify all the time. They also they will have played 2 or 3 years of high school football, and they will have played the most recent year. Colin Hurley, for instance, showed up to campus young for his age. Well, A, he played high school football at Trinity in Florida all the way up until he got here. B, there was no expectation Colin Hurley was coming in here and playing right now anyways. So he had that time to, okay, yes, you lost 10 to 12 games of development at the high school level and live competition, but that's something that can be negated or made up by being at LSU practice every day for, this full season and an off season and however many more until he actually steps on the field or takes over as the starter or whatever it might be. In Jakeem's case, I'm trying to work this, talk it out loud like you would, Charlie. As a 5-star D lineman, you think that he would probably want to play right away somewhere. So I just think it makes it a bit more tough when now you've only played 1 year of football. You are leaving a lot of that development out on the table.
Yeah, I'm looking. Let's play this out to the end. Let's say he does reclassify. I mean, that's why I wouldn't imagine that they would have put him in in Carr without some kind of assurance that he could reclassify. Otherwise, like you said, why not just stay at Aug? You're talking about probably a 17-year-old kid who's played 1 year of high school football enrolling in college next year at 17-ish. This guy better be Reggie White if he's going to play as a freshman at 17, having played 1 year of the previous 3 in high school. And maybe he is. I certainly know that, he's rated this high, but man, you got to be Superman to take that path and make an immediate impact.
I think that there were probably some road bumps here along the way in terms of where they thought they could get with reclassifying, doing it at Aug, which wasn't going to happen, which is why he pulled out of Aug so late into the game. And then there had been buzz this offseason around IMG, but I'd heard that his credit hours weren't necessarily going to transfer that way. So in a way, I feel bad for Jakeem here that he's leaving a lot of football on the table. And again, we're not speculating. If that's how this plays out all the way through, then yes, you're leaving a lot of football on the table. But does he at some point get qualified this year? I don't know. But does he do something like you talked about? Does he stack up on credit and play next fall and then enroll, and he never reclassified, but he's still an early enrollee? There's no finality to that yet. We don't have those answers. But if it is a reclass, like you said, why leave Aug if you're not going to do that? Then it would be unheralded. We don't have anything to point to for a top D lineman and say, hey, look, he did what this guy did, and here's how kind of it panned out. Again, for a guy who will have only played a year of football and it not be injury-related.
Last thing, Shay, this felt like a win for LSU this week, even if Stewart doesn't play at all this fall, to keep him in the state. They get to IMG and it's a free-for-all. It felt like a win for Frank Wilson and LSU to keep him in state whether he plays or not. Am I misreading?
No, I think we probably buried the lead there for all the LSU fans. Yes, that would be, I would think, the most important thing for LSU fans is that, and maybe, look, I'm not sure for Frank Wilson if it's the most important thing, but he would much rather him be at Carr than I could make the argument that any other high school in America, if it's not at St. Aug. So given there was that, IMG being tossed around, and when you're the number one player, every school like that will try to get into the mix. So yes, getting him placed over at Carr and getting him in right now and at least into a classroom and all of that is something that Frank Wilson that's the best case scenario, considered how things played out for the LSU side, is that If he's leaving Aug, that he's ending up at Carr. Yes, I certainly think from a recruiting perspective that you're now on the exact same playing level or field you were on when you were at Aug.
Check him out after the game on 3. Shay, we always appreciate it. Thanks for getting up early with us, and we will talk to you next week.
Yeah, Charlie, too. Bryce Underwood, a little old guy, number 1 player in the country, committed to LSU, is now Michigan's all-time passing touchdown leader at the high school level.
Okay.
He eclipsed 125 last night. So, this is QBU down here. All they do is win Heisman's and cut out, top draft picks. Aren't you used to it?
Yeah, you're right. You can't argue with facts. Three guys were 1 or 2 in the draft in the last 17 years or something like that. Shay, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, sounds good.
And we will take a break. We come back. Pinch hitting in our scouting report, former Georgia quarterback Aaron Murray. He'll break down South Carolina. That's next. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer.
Eagle 98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day Scouting Report, presented by Demco, providing safe, reliable, and competitively priced energy services to co-op members since 1938.
Welcome back in, Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Continuing to count you down, LSU-South Carolina, 11 a.m. Central from Columbia. The Tigers open up SEC play. Time to take a closer look at the foe for our scouting report. A little bit of a change this week. Jim Nagy unable to join us, so we call in former Georgia quarterback Aaron Murray, now of ESPN. He also does the Snaps podcast with T-Bob. I'm sure y'all are all familiar with that, and bless him for sitting down and hanging out with T-Bob all those times. Aaron, we appreciate you joining us. How are you?
I appreciate the prayers and thoughts of working with T-Bob every single day. It is definitely keeps me on my toes, and I tell everyone I'm just always happy I wake up and we have not been kicked off YouTube yet for some of the stuff he says.
You just never quite know what's going to come out of his mouth at any given moment, but that's kind of why we all love him over here too. Aaron, LSU and South Carolina, interesting matchup. Maybe not one that I think many people thought would have the intrigue that kind of surrounds it now, just 2 weeks into the season. But I mean, College Game Day's there. There's a lot to look forward to. In looking at South Carolina, I want to start on the offensive side and obviously start at quarterback. They're replacing Spencer Rattler, Lenora Sellers, first-year starting quarterback. Hasn't necessarily been super productive early on in the season, but Brian Kelly's praised the arm. We've heard all about the running ability. What have you seen from Sellers so far through 2 games?
A young quarterback. So I had South Carolina week 1 versus Old Dominion, a game that, probably should have lost, but defense found a way to give a couple turnovers inside the 10-yard line, and they were able to punch it in and end up getting the big-time victory week 1 and then roll that into week 2. But listen, he's got incredible size. I remember meeting with him the day before. We met with the coaches, met with a couple of the players, him and Rocket, and just physically imposing. He's all 6'3", 240 pounds, looks the part. He's got a big arm. He runs the ball well. I think it's going to be hard for him at points this season. One, the youth. I think that if the talent is there, there's no doubt about it. But there's not a lot of support from him on the outside. Maybe Bennett, maybe their best guy. He's a freshman too, first-year freshman. I like the Jared Brown kid that they got in the transfer portal from Coastal, but just not a lot of really good playmakers on the outside, unfortunately. So that's going to, hinder what his progress could be throughout the season. But from just a pure, let me just run the football with my size and speed, and then be able to create, get outside the pocket, and hopefully allow my receivers to buy some more time. The dude can make some throws. And he was a little uncomfortable week 1, probably missed a couple high, used some nerves, especially being home. Definitely seemed like he calmed down a little bit last week, which was good to see. But there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made. I know he's a good kid. He's a hard worker from everyone you talk to in the building. He's going to get there. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. And like I said, it's going to be tough with some of the receivers that he's working with right now.
You mentioned the running ability that he possesses, and that's obviously been a big topic around here this week because LSU struggled so much in stopping Wildcat against Nichols. Is that something you would expect South Carolina to really try to feature this week with the North Sellers?
I think you have to. I mean, you have to play the game to win. And, right now you have a guy that, you want. They told us, he views himself as a passer first. And I love that. I mean, good. You're a quarterback 100%. You're throwing the football. But at some point, the coaching staff, you have to say, listen, this is only the 3rd game. This is going to be a big-time environment. It's going to be loud. Can we just make him comfortable? Can we get into 3rd and manageable situations? And I think the best way to do that is obviously run the football. You got to have success early on 1st and 2nd down. So, they're going to want to play action pass. They're going to want to do all that as well. But I think the more that you can incorporate him on 1st and 2nd down to really try and keep LSU off balance, to get Rocket Sanders going, who I think has looked really good to start the season, you do not want to put Lenoris in 3rd and long situations. So, I would. Why not? LSU struggled. Take advantage of it and see if you can get his legs going.
You mentioned Rocket Sanders there. That's where I wanted to go next. Obviously, look, that's somebody everybody's very familiar with in the Southeastern Conference from all his years at Arkansas, and the talent speaks for itself. Has obviously dealt with some injury problems. You mentioned he's looked really good so far to you early in the season. What specifically is standing out about the veteran back?
Well, he looks energized and healthy, and he's someone that we met with along with Norris before the first game. And you remember just meeting with him last year before games when he was at Arkansas, and just really dejected. Showed up to South Carolina with about 240, 245. Has gone down to the mid 220s. He looks good. He seems significantly happier, and he's running with the piss and vinegar that we know that Rocket Sanders can run with. He's a powerful back. I mean, those two in the backfield together with what we talked about with those zone reads, those two along with, an improved offensive line for South Carolina should be able just to fall forward and get at least 2 yards. That's just how big and strong those guys are. So, health is a big thing. You obviously, he's played a lot of football in the Southeastern Conference. You don't want to just wear him down. So that goes back to finding other guys that can get the ball. I know Juju's been there for a while. I think there's creative ways that you can get Jared Brown the football, whether it's Wildcat, whether it is jet sweeps, things like that. So the attention's not just on Rocket and Lenoris. Because, right now, if I'm playing South Carolina, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if we can stop Lenoris and Rocket from running the football, we're going to have some success. And I think you have to find fun ways that other people can get in touches. I mean, maybe even get Robbie in there at times too. Ashford, the backup quarterback from Auburn guy, to utilize his legs as well. So, yeah, I expect early on heavy doses of Rocket, heavy doses of Stellars running the football until LSU says no more. We're going to put 7, 8 man boxes in here and force your receivers to win one-on-one on the outside.
One more on the offensive side, and we'll flip over to the defense. The negative plays, Shane Beamer's talked an awful lot about that this week. 8 sacks, 23 tackles for loss. South Carolina surrendered so far in the first 2 games. You've obviously called one of their games against Old Dominion, so you saw a pretty solid sample. Is there one thing that you can point to that's triggering that? Is it the play up front? Is it maybe Lenore Sellers not getting them into the right protection? What's kind of leading to those lapses there from South Carolina?
I think guys are getting open. I mean, I think the offense line has improved from a year ago. They feel better about them. They like the quarterback. They like the running back. I just think guys on the outside have to win one-on-one. Plain and simple. Like, if you can't win one-on-one on the outside, teams are going to stack the box. Teams are going to play a little bit more aggressive from the safety position in order to fill. So until you win on the outside, it's going to make life difficult for the quarterback. It's going to make life difficult for the running game. It's going to make life difficult for the receivers. So, like, if this team wants to, run into more favorable boxes, so like a 6-man box or a 5-man box, depending on the formation on offense, and have that number advantage where the zone read really does give you that extra blocker in the run game, you got to, be willing to take some shots. I get that. You got to complete them, but you also just got to win on the outside. So to me, like, this is South Carolina's offense will be hindered until the receivers start making plays out there.
Scouting report here on the South Carolina Gamecocks ahead of their matchup with LSU. Chatting with former Georgia quarterback Aaron Murray, now at ESPN, and of course does the Snaps podcast with our guy T-Bob. Let's flip it over. Defense. When you look at South Carolina, the one thing that immediately stands out about the Gamecocks is pass rush. They are leading the SEC, 10 sacks through 2 games, had 21 all of last season, already halfway there. And it is led by the 2 rush ends, one a senior, one a freshman. Let's start with the freshman because Dylan Stewart, the former 5-star, is turning heads early and living up to the 5-star billing. Anything that stands out specifically that is given him so much success this early in his career?
Yeah, he looks like Jadeveon Clowney, which gives me nightmares when I saw him. He's a big joker, man. So he's 6'6", 250, and bends like he's 6'2", 220. Great first step. He does stuff that just makes everyone just go wow, 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 wow. And he's only playing, going to be playing in his third game. So that's going to be the tough part for LSU. I mean, that's going to be the fun matchup. I mean, Dylan has obviously had a hot start, and they were kind of expecting him to do that. Kennard is also a beast on the outside as well. You got other guys in the defensive tackle position that they feel really good about also. I mean, this is a really good front seven for South Carolina. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Debo at the linebacking spot, Van Martin at the linebacking spot. So they can get after the quarterback with 4. I think their secondary they feel good about, not really the strength of the defense. But, yeah, Dylan at his size and his get-off and the flexibility, the ability to get around the tackle, you put him home with what I would say is one of the most underrated home environments in all of college football is extremely scary because, listen, I played at South Carolina twice. The second time was against Davion at a night game. I know this isn't a night game, but it was a night game, and he killed us. It just that get off and advantage defense with how loud it is. He's going to be a problem with Kennard coming off the edges.
You mentioned the offensive line and the defensive line being the matchup. How do you think that goes? I mean, LSU's tackles with Campbell and Emory Jones, they haven't allowed a sack yet this season on Nussmeier, but they are facing that pass rush. How do you see that matchup playing out on Saturday?
I think you're going against the best tackle tandem in all of college football, and you're going against, listen, Dylan Stewart's an absolute beast, but he's a freshman. So if you give a little bit of advantage to LSU because those guys have been there, done that. This is their 3rd season now. They've seen everything. They've played in loud environments, and they can control themselves there. Unless Dylan is truly like this All-American as your third game starter, which he's eventually going to get there. I think in pass pro, if you're in don't say like it comes down to 3rd and manual situation like we talked about with Arkansas. Like if you're in a situation where you're not having to take a 5-step drop and sit in the pocket and let things develop, I think those tackles can hold their own. I have no doubt about it. I love those 2 guys on the edge for LSU. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to can you have first and second down success running the football. T-Bob and I thought, like, these two teams are the complete opposite. LSU can throw the ball all day long. I think South Carolina is going to want to try and run the football as much as they can to slow the game down a little bit. And obviously they don't have the receivers, or the Norris is not as good of a thrower, gifted as a thrower right now as Garrett Nussmeier is. So South Carolina needs to find a pass game, and LSU needs to find a run game. And I think that is something that LSU would love to do, and I think they're going to have to make an effort to do it, because once again, like, you don't want to just sit back and say, hey, guess what, Garrett, we're going to throw the ball 40-plus times in this game and go out there and win it with your arm against these defensive ends in a hostile environment and expect him not to get some shots along the way. So I think you got to protect him a little bit. I think he's a tremendous quarterback, but you've got to find a way to take some pressure off him a little bit in this big-time environment.
LSU in South Carolina, 11 a.m. here, a little bit later on, a few hours away as we continue to count you former Georgia quarterback Aaron Murray, now of ESPN Does the Snaps podcast with T-Bob, filling in for us here in our scouting report. Aaron, we appreciate it, man. It was great. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Have a good game today.
Absolutely. We'll grab a break, come back on the other side with more. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644.
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Presented by Super Chevy. Talkin' Tigers. Talkin' Tigers. Offensive lineman Emory Jones.
We're going into it ready to fight and claw, to go get those rushing yards. I feel like the rushing yard has been down, but I feel like, every guy in that room knows what the problem is, and I feel like we're all addressing it day by day and getting 1% better at it.
Defensive lineman Paris Shand.
He's a great leader, and even through his injury, he's still helping, talking to guys and stuff like that. But without him, it's just next man up. Whoever needs to play in that position will play in that position and do what they're told and do the best that they can, give their 110%, and that whatever the result is the result. And if you give all that you have, you're happy with that result.
Wide receiver Xavier Thomas.
Everybody on our team is capable of making a play when their number is called. So we don't get caught up in the run game and stuff like that. At the end of the day, we have the best O-line in the nation. So we're not really worried about that, but when player numbers get called, he's going to make the play.
Cornerback Zy Alexander.
Whatever I need to do to get on the field, I'll do it. Put me back in stage at safety, that's what the defense needed. So I'm just happy to be back out there.
Offensive lineman Emory Jones.
I mean, we knew it from the get-go, though, going against the defense. We didn't. If there wasn't a guy in his face, he was throwing the ball down the field, and it was most likely going to be a completion. So I feel like we're really confident in us, and us is really confident in us. So I just feel like, we're in a great spot with that.
Defensive lineman Paris Shand.
Yeah, I'm confident about playing anywhere on the line. I know everything play-wise. I know everything technique-wise, so I feel confident playing outside, inside, nose, 3, and...
Wide receiver Xavier Thomas.
Garrett's a cool dude, especially off the field. He's somebody you could just always call on whenever you need help with a play. You could always just go pull up by his house, enjoy time, especially him and his dog. He loves his dog. He loves playing the game too, so being with Nuss, it just built my confidence with him through the roof.
Cornerback Zy Alexander.
We like playing on the road, but, to get a win on the road, it means everything. We put ourselves in a position where now on we got to go 1-0, so that's our mindset right now.
Offensive lineman Emory Jones.
And every game we go into is going to be, super important when it comes to getting the win. And I feel like every guy in that building, knows that. We're taking it 1 week at a time. Every week, I got a saying that I do is 0-0. Every week you go into the game 0-0. You can either lose it or win it. And, it's up to you to take all the steps necessary to go out on Saturday and win the game.
Defensive lineman Paris Shand.
I think we need to be fundamentally sound when it comes to our rush lanes and making sure that we wrap up tackle and get because it's a big quarterback, so making sure we tackle hard, and he's a talented runner, so being able to keep that at bay is very important.
Wide receiver Xavier Thomas.
Especially because Diago, he just give me the confidence, every day we in here, he telling me you're All-American at this. You know more of it than I do, so just go out there and just making a play. Actually, my first punt return ever was versus Georgia as a freshman, and it was off the bounce. So actually, getting the ball off the bounce, I like it because it gives me that extra burst. So I didn't really second guess catching the ball off the bounce versus Nichols.
Cornerback Zy Alexander.
One thing we need to work on is starting fast. Nichols came out and started fast, and the second thing we need to stop the run. We need to stop the run, we need to tackle better.
Offensive lineman Emory Jones.
It's the SEC D-line. Every week we go against the SEC D-line. They're going to be good guys. They're going to be athletes who get to the quarterback. Our job is to stop that, so that's what we're going to do.
Talking Tigers. Eagle 98.1. Game Day.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Parish Construction and Roofing.
Hello, Kim Mulkey here. When I have construction and roofing needs, I call my friend Ryan Terrio and the Parish Construction and Roofing team. I sleep good at night because I know the Parish team has my back. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs. And remember, always do business with someone you know.
Parish Built from your hometown. Parishbuilt.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
The best kept secret in
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. After further review on Game Day. After further review is heard weekday afternoons at 3 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Now from AFR, here's Matt Moscona.
ESPN Bet Sportsbook at LaBerge is your new Game Day headquarters. Our LaBerge countdown to kickoff now at about 2.5 hours, a little over 2.5 hours for LSU in South Carolina. Matt Moscona, good morning. How are you?
Hey, guys. Good morning. Great.
Morning.
South Carolina trailed in the fourth quarter to Old Dominion at home, came back to win that game, then went to Kentucky and demolished the Wildcats. Which do you think is the more clear indication of what kind of team South Carolina is, game one or game two?
The entire game one and 3/4 of game two, which they were awful as well. Look, I've been maybe the most vocal all week about this. I've had the misfortune of watching South Carolina play both of their football games. I was sitting there at Park MGM in Vegas watching that Old Dominion game. Hanny, this is a bad offensive football team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The 2 touchdowns they scored against Old Dominion fumbled inside their own 10-yard line. So South Carolina was gifted goal-to-go situations. It's the only 2 times they scored. Lenora Sellers is inaccurate. They do not have weapons on the outside. He's 6'3", 240, and so they'll run him downhill. And they have Rocket Sanders, who played at Arkansas and was an all-conference caliber back there 2 years ago before he got injured. That's about it. Like, they're a bad offensive football team. I'm not telling you LSU's great shakes defensively, but if LSU struggles to stop this offense, this team is in a world of trouble the rest of the way.
There will be some changes on the defense today, at least as far as overall playing time for Whit Weeks, for Harold Perkins, and for whatever rotation they come up with on the interior. What do you expect LSU's defense to look like today?
I think they're going to go more 4-3 because they're going to run Lenora Sellers up. I'm not trying to say Cam Newton, but just think of what a big, because he ain't Cam Newton or anything close to it, but just think of what a big quarterback is that that would run the ball downhill out of a shotgun set. So you're going to want to be more stout in the middle. I mean, I would love to see Greg Penn, Whit Weeks, West Weeks in the middle of that defense and Perkins on the outside trying to create negative plays. I mean, I know that's Perkins in the star position. Kick Major Burns back to safety if you want to play him back there. But, I mean, guys, I think it's been talked about a lot this week, but Blake Baker's defenses at Missouri the last 2 years against South Carolina had 8 sacks and 18 TFLs. For whatever reason, he has had this offense's number the last 2 years. And if you want someone to create havoc in the backfield, I mean, Harold Perkins is the guy to do it. Put him on the edge and let the guys on the interior handle that heavy lift.
The positioning of Perkins has been a topic really for 3 years, but specifically this week. There is a differing of opinions on whether the star or the edge is the better spot for him. You wrote a column about this week. What do you think?
The weird thing about it is, so I went to every fall camp practice where they let us, and Perkins was never in one spot. it wasn't like he was just playing off the ball every down. I mean, we saw them run goal line situations where he was on the edge. We saw plenty of that prowler package that a lot of people have talked and written about. I mean, I've seen it. We saw him drop in coverage. He had a beautiful interception. It might have been the first day of practice. He had a beautiful interception on the left sideline covering Mason Taylor on an out route. I mean, it's perplexing that he hasn't been used in a more versatile role through 2 games because we saw him move all over in fall camp. I don't think they're going to have any problems finding a different spot for him because they've repped it. I mean, I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I saw him moving around in fall camp. I think it's just a matter of moving him around as much in different personnel packages today. So, look, if it is the star position, I mean, isn't that really what he was doing last year anyway? Kind of that nickel Sam type safety in the box role. I mean, I think he transitioned seamlessly to that if they put him there more today, and I'd quite honestly love to see what that looks like.
LSU gets Garrett Dellinger back at left guard today, so the offensive line is intact. They got to get the run game going at least enough to take some of the pressure off of Garrett Nussmeier. What does that look like against a Kentucky team that hasn't allowed very much on the ground?
Yeah, I don't think this is the day where they really line up and get going running the football. I mean, they can try to do it, but the thing Brian Kelly said all week is, I mean, since the post game to every availability was, look, if they're going to put 8-9 men in the box, we're going to throw it. And I think LSU's great advantage in this game is their receivers on the outside against the South Carolina secondary. Carolina just defensively does not have the athletes to cover all of LSU's receivers. So I do think this is one of those days where while everyone is kind of looking for and hoping LSU gets the running game going, and I'm not saying they're not going to try to do that, this feels like a day where I don't know how Carolina covers Lacey and Daniels and Anderson and Xavion Thomas and Mason Taylor, and if you want to have Juwan Johnson coming out, there's just too many weapons all over the field. This feels like a big day. This feels like a 300-yard passing day for Garrett Nussmeier. His total in Vegas is 290. Like, this feels like one of those days where he's going to sling it around and probably have a lot of success doing it.
The one thing that could prohibit him from doing that is an extensive pass rush. Kyle Kennard, Dylan Stewart, number 5 and number 6. You'll see these two ends. They are physically almost identical, and they piled up 6 sacks among the 2 of them through 2 games. So this is best on best. LSU's 2 offensive tackles against these 2. I would call them upper echelon or even elite pass rushers. Stewart's played only 2 games, but boy, he looks apart. How do you see that matchup?
Yeah, you're right. That is the good-on-good matchup in this ball game. If Jones and Campbell can't hold up against those 2, then I think LSU has a long day offensively. I'm banking on the fact that they can because I've seen it for 3 years. Shane Beamer even mentioned in one of his press conferences this week, he knew the stat. He said, he didn't call him by name. He said, 66, the left tackle, has played 1,700 snaps in college and allowed 3 snaps, and one of them was to Will Anderson and one was to Jared Verse when he was a freshman. So, and the other was like in a scramble drill. So, I mean, I'd be shocked if those guys just absolutely had a field day because nobody's been able to have a field day against Campbell and Jones. But that is the game within the game to me, Hanny, today. I think if this offensive line keeps Nussmeier upright and he has time to throw to those receivers against that secondary, then I think LSU moves the ball pretty effectively and has a good offensive day.
Early start for Whiskey and Wine today, and Don Juan's is opening up for the game at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, man. People can go watch the game at 11 at Don Juan. We encourage you to do so, and then T-Bob and I will be live as soon as the game goes final. I'll tell you, there's nothing quite like watching T-Bob Bear already crushing beers and mezcal at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Jeez.
I was maybe looking for a Bloody Mary or a screwdriver.
Nope. It's beer and mezcal, babe.
Okay, well, good luck with that.
a lot of it, too.
Matt, have a good call. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. See you.
And we're brought to you by Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. Try the new parboiled rice from Supreme Rice and support our Louisiana farmers. Supreme Rice has been in state since the 1930s. 30s. All of our rice grown, milled, and processed right here in the state of Louisiana. The Climate Smart program ensures that future generations of farmers will be able to excel as well, because with the Climate Smart program, they're reducing methane emissions and they're promoting water conservation. Pick up Supreme Rice anywhere you buy rice, all your AG food stores, all of your Rouses, all of your Walmarts, the brown, the long grain, the medium grain, the jasmine, and now the parboiled rice, all available. Great for tailgating next week. LSU's got back-to-back games coming up at Tiger Stadium. So we'll take a break. Come back. We'll talk with Jimmy out about what is coming up on the college football slate today. Later, we'll go inside the stadium with the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Parish Construction and Roofing.
Hello, Kim Mulkey here. When I have construction and roofing needs, I call my friend Ryan Terrio and the Parish Construction and Roofing team. I sleep good at night because I know the Parish team has my back. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs. And remember, always do business with someone you know.
Parish Built from your hometown. Parishbuilt.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
The best kept secret in
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Autorlocks, presented by William Crane Allstate Insurance Agency. For auto, home, life insurance in the Baton Rouge and surrounding areas, William Crane Allstate Insurance Agency. Now, here's Jimmy Ott.
And we say good morning to Jimmy Ott for today's slate of games. Jimmy, how are you?
Charlie, a lot better than yesterday.
Yeah.
How about those games last night? Huh?
Much better outcomes for the boys last night. Listen, this is not maybe the most star-studded card on the college football calendar today, but it's not bad either. There's some sneaky, interesting games to me, and the early slate is actually pretty good. Besides LSU and South Carolina, Alabama's at Wisconsin. Oklahoma State takes a rare trip to Tulsa. Memphis and Florida State in a game that might have playoff implications in the group of 5 for Memphis. And then if you wait around until 11:45, you get the only matchup of ranked teams today with Boston College and Mizzou. So dealer's choice, what you like?
Yeah, look, let's jog our memory. What were we thinking about Notre Dame, Northern Illinois this time last week?
Not much. Not much.
So, You don't know where they're coming from. But how about with the conference realignment, the shuffling, and we all been through that. But, man, we got rivalry week today. I mean, a lot of them. The Civil War, the Apple Cup, you just mentioned. I mean, Big 12, Oklahoma State's going to travel in-state to Tulsa. I mean, that's like LSU going to play at Yeoman or something. I mean, it's and speaking of the greenies, you got to be careful on connecting the dots. But how does that not make Tulane look a little bit better what Kansas State did to Arizona last night? So, I mean, there's just there's a lot in Pitt, West Virginia. I mean, I can remember. Heck, we were in the Marriott Marquis watching the end of that game to get LSU to the national championship in 2007. And, I remember watching that game on Thanksgiving night sometimes as well. Well, that's in September now because, they've got to, they got to fulfill their conference obligations. But at least we have those games, even like we had Penn State and West Virginia earlier. So, there's some games, some sneaky games. And, where are they going to come from? I'll tell you one thing, nobody's given Kentucky a chance. Are they just that bad? Well, they could play arguably the best team, and I still think that's the number one power-rated team in all of college football in Georgia. So, a lot of look, man, beats the heck out of watching Premier League, man. Come on, we'll take it.
Absolutely. Report out of Gainesville is that Connor Wegman will be a game-time decision, a true game-time decision for Texas A&M. So quarterback intrigue galore down there. How much you see of DJ Lagway as opposed to Graham Mertz for Florida, and whether Wegman's going to play or not. This is one of the more compelling games to me today. Texas A&M is at Florida at 2:30.
He played poorly against Notre Dame. And, this is a guy that when he got hurt last year, it really kind of sealed Jimbo's fate because he had to come on. And, Jimbo, got released, with that big price tag. And, who is there anybody that gives, Sunbelt Billy a chance with that roster in this schedule? They were pushed around. I mean, dominated is a term that's often overused in our industry. But they were dominated up front by Miami. And I don't know. Nobody's given Billy a chance, Napier a chance. But this is the only ticket, the only possibility for him to get out. To go 5-7, where this kid has an unbelievable – man, he had 18 yards in attempt, Charlie. 18 yards in attempt, few touchdowns, no interceptions against air. That's unbelievable. So if he's able to, at least make them somewhat respectable and competitive – against the toughest schedule in college football, will that buy him another year? And I thought you brought up a great point. Hey, man, that's my coach. If they come at the end of the year and he has a great run and maybe they pull off an upset against Florida State or something like that along the way, they said, well, I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm going with Coach. Wherever he's going, I'm going. Something to that effect. I mean, that's more possible than I know it's a long shot for them to rally and, him to be in that position, but it's a shot, and that's the only shot he has. So, yeah, Lagway's going to play. And funny how that fell because we were all high on Graham Mertz. Nothing he showed at Wisconsin showed that he would be that good. He was really good last year and just another year to build upon. But this kid, this is a day. They go 5-7 or 4-8 with Mertz, c'est la vie. But this Lagway, the number one recruit in the country, there's some glimmer of hope for this struggling fan base right now.
If Lagway goes as a starter, they could just trade Graham Mertz to Auburn for a draft choice. Auburn needs a quarterback. They're making a change today after throwing through 4 interceptions last week in the loss to Cal. They're going with the young quarterback today too. And we were talking about Auburn yesterday, Jimmy. Is Hugh Freeze going to get them back? That was an ugly lost turnover battle 5-0 to Cal last week.
Man, it was, and it's just. Man, they don't even care about football in Berkeley. It's just that simple. They don't care. And Auburn cares a lot. And they put their money where their mouth is. It's, for one team, that was a rent-a-win matchup as far as fan interest is concerned. And you lose at home to them. In the back. And Freeze, this is his expertise. He's always had good offenses. They've always been imaginative. They've been creative. He always gets a little dual purpose out of his quarterbacks, and I can't ever remember Hugh Freeze offense that struggled the way it did last week against a real, I mean, a mediocre at best Cal defense. Well, after defending him during the week, he makes the change. Pay attention to what I do and not what I say. But, yeah, he was best saying he's the best fit for us. He knows what we want to do as an offense. But, no, my Auburn friends were certainly pulling for a change. So, and I've said this before because I was on an Auburn podcast, my buddy Jeff G out of Atlanta, and I said, man, you guys have money? Why didn't y'all go get a quarterback? I mean, you telling me, Charlie, we know those Auburn people enough. You tell me they can't go outbid Notre Dame for their quarterback? You bet they could. I just didn't understand it while they stood pat with Thorne.
LSU and South Carolina, this line opened, Jimmy, I believe the consensus was 8.5, and it has been decreasing all week. I'm seeing 6s this morning, so it's been a South Carolina-dominated market. What do you make of the line change in Columbia?
Actually, we were in Beau Rivage last week, and we saw it open up 10. So that was the first number that I did see. It's usually an angle for a freshman, first road start in a hostile environment, and that's what Nussmeier's doing today. But Charlie, before the season, I said I've got a lot of confidence he's going to be near the top 3 or so in this conference when it's all said and done. What kind of season he's going to have? He's had a nice start, and look, man, we know about the one kind of where he just held the ball. On the Anderson play in Las Vegas, the one where he got rid of it so easily the first time they ran that, for a touchdown. And it wasn't so much he threw it at his feet, but just he held on to it so long. And why? That was your primary target on that play. But he's looked really, really good. So he's distributing the ball, and Lacey's his guy, and if they don't give him, extra attention, he's going to go that way. They've got a great chemistry between them. So I think Nussmeier is going to be just fine. That fan base, it was respected. You and I have talked about them a long time. In reference to their history, which they didn't have any, it wasn't that long ago that Tannehill was the starting quarterback for South Carolina with the long hair. That was the first bowl game they ever won in the 90s. I mean, that is not a deep history, but they're going to be excited as heck to get game day. It's kind of as soft of a landing spot as it is for game day. They're still going to be fired up, and they're excited as hell that that line opened up 10 originally in Lexington last week, and they go in there and just dominate them. So I think a great matchup today, too, is our offensive tackles against their edge rushers. They created all kinds of problems, not just against Kentucky, but against Old Dominion, creating 2 turnovers that led to less than 10-yard touchdown drives. Or they would have lost that one. So Gamecock fans are all set, and Beamer's another one. I mean, he was a nice first year, beat North Carolina in the Mayo Bowl, but it's been a struggle since, and a lot of people wondered if he was going to make it through this year. But that Kentucky win, they avoided that upset bid by Old Dominion in game 1, and then destroyed Kentucky. And Kentucky's been really, really solid for a long time under Stoops. They're excited, so it's going to be a fun atmosphere, a live atmosphere. I like LSU, and I like the way this line is going. I usually like to take some value at minus 8.5, minus 10. No, minus 6. Yeah, I'll lay it with LSU today.
Jimmy also on Pitt, Oregon State, and Georgia State today as part of his 5 selections this week. Jimmy, tell us who's bringing the saddle locks.
Yes, indeed. My buddy Clark, William Crane, and Allstate Insurance. Man, it's bundling up. That's the great thing you could do with William Crane over at Allstate. If your rates have gone up or your homeowners, call our agency and, ask for the Jimmy Ott special. That's right. We're going to give you a special discount if you mention you heard it right here on 104.5 or Eagle 98 Point pregame show. Our rates are hard to beat in Allstate. Trying to capture the market here in Louisiana. We're being very aggressive. Our bundle specials, ask about them when you call for auto, home. Give us a call at 421-3133. That's 421-3133. Come to the agency. That's one of the top sellers in Louisiana, and show how our agency at William Crane is like your concierge service for all your insurance needs.
Thanks, Jimmy. We'll see you tomorrow at the Queen for Football Sunday at 10 a.m.
I'll headed that way in a little bit. Thanks, Charles.
Thanks a lot. We'll take a break. We'll go to Columbia, South Carolina when we return. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day inside the stadium. Presented by Louisiana Federal Land Bank. Louisiana Federal Land Bank. They're experts in rural land and equipment lending.
ESPN Bet Sportsbook at LeBear's, your new Game Day headquarters. Our countdown to kickoff about 2 hours and 10 minutes away. We go up to Columbia, the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair. Chris, good morning. How's the weather? Gordy told us the forecast was improving a couple hours ago.
Yeah, it's going to get a little better, I think. I mean, apparently there's a lot of gray clouds, but yeah, that's the expectation, is that we get closer to kickoff, we'll get a little opening from the sky and really just be cloudy the rest of the day, which would be a good thing. It was raining pretty steady this morning when I left the hotel, and now that I'm here at Williams-Brice, it's just a kind of a spitting rain, but hopefully that's all going to go away here in the next 2 hours.
Give me an idea of the game day setting with Gameday on campus, trying to move your way around.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can tell it's a big game for Carolina. I mean, it was the interstate, a good 5 miles from the stadium was starting to back up. The exits were backing up. Luckily, of course, South Carolina's finest, the Highway Patrol, led the team on the opposite lane. We basically closed down one side of the highway and was able to get here. But you could deduce that there were going to be a lot of people, and as we got closer to where the game day set is, and now looking out over all the tailgate lots, you can tell the Carolina fans, 4 or 5 weeks ago, I don't know how optimistic they were for the season, but they're fired up on this Saturday.
Coming off that big win against Kentucky. Chris, listening to Brian Kelly this week, he was pretty adamant that LSU would be able to run the football when the situation presented itself as far as fronts, and from a physicality standpoint, it'll be one of the things we'll be watching today.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. I mean, I just, when I look at South Carolina's defense, I mean, again, the front four impressive, certainly the two edge rushers. But I feel good again about having the two tackles that LSU has. But is it a game in which, again, you get too many opportunities, or should I say so many opportunities to put the ball in the air and challenge this Carolina secondary that I'm sure there's part of the package is to be balanced. That's what Coach Brian Kelly wants to be. But I think the advantage is for Garrett Nussmeier, again, barring the weather and there's no slipping of the football. I just think the advantage is for LSU to really exploit the secondary with the number of talented receivers the Tigers have. Now, again, if the opportunity is there to run, it'd be great. And I know everybody would be excited, but, you're talking about a quarterback who's thrown for over 300 yards in the first two games. He's got a group of receivers. We're told Kyle Parker should be good to go today. So you add another weapon into the mix. It'll be interesting to see how much LSU will run. I just think the opportunity is going to be there to light them up through the air.
We'll get Hunt Palmer off the golf course in Coshada and turn the baton over to you guys here in a few minutes for the network pregame. Chris, have a great call and a safe trip back. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it, guys.
And we will take a break, come back, and wrap things up here. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding
98.1. All right, Musso, some final thoughts here.
I love that the weather's improving. I think that plays into LSU's favor huge. So I'm expecting a nice day for Garrett Nussmeier, and I like your offensive tackles. I think LSU wins at 31-23.
Run the football, stop the run. I appreciate the year that Nussmeier is having, but I would like to see this football team be better at running the football and stopping the run. That's kind of my key to the V here today. And keep those two monsters on the outside from harassing your quarterback
Harold
too
Perkins,
much.
too.
Yeah, we'll see where he ends up today. We'll be back 90 minutes after the end of the game at Rouse's. Richard Dixon will join us for post-game. From all of us here down at the flagship and everybody over in Columbia, South Carolina, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good morning. This has been Eagle 98.1 Game Day.